I'm Jess.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is Beyond the Shelves. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Shelves. It is the month of February. February is for lovers, and we are talking about what we love the most, and that is, you guessed it, the library. So February is Library Lovers Month, and we're just gonna talk about why we love the library and all things library related. So really out of the box for us, not something we ever talk about.
This is really new territory.
But we have some fun. We got some fun things for you, and an exciting book bulletin. So listen to the end, please. Thank you. Do we have announcements, Sarah?
I guess the big one that I'm sure everyone's really excited for is keep an eye out in the next couple weeks. There should be an Avid announcement on its way.
I'm so excited. We don't know either. Just for the record, I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be in. I am excited.
No, our producer is sitting right here, and he knows, and he's not telling us.
It's true.
I was like, maybe. No, we got nothing.
Not going to happen.
Nothing from him. So that's the big thing that everyone should be waiting for.
It's very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But before we get into why we love libraries, I mean, this is also why we love libraries, because of the books we read.
Yes.
What are you reading right now, Jess?
I'm reading two great books. I'm really happy with what I'm reading right now. I am listening to The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I read that book when it first came out, but it just wasn't a time when it just kind of went in and out. I can describe it. I know what it's about. I enjoyed it. But I just needed something. I needed that vibe really bad, and the audiobook was available. And I mean that vibe is just like a loving, communal. It's just such a delightful book because it is about a group of people on a spaceship going to do a mission. I mean, really, that's all it is. It's just like their characters are great, and their backstories are great. It's like, I hate to use the word cozy because it is almost at this point overused. Cozy fantasy is hard to say, but it makes me feel really good inside. So
cozy on the inside is cozy on the outside.
I feel like when there are lots of bad things outside, it's like I can put my headphones on and travel to this spaceship and feel like I'm hanging out with these cool people doing cool things. So that is the audiobook I'm listening to. Yay for breaking my audiobook streak of badness. Thank you, Becky Chambers. And then I'm reading a nonfiction book. What? I'm reading a essay collection book. It's called Y2K.
Oh, it's
How
essays?
The 2000s Became Everything. Stop it. It is essays.
It doesn't count.
I love this book. So far, I'm almost done. I'm 75% done. And it is just I became basically an adult in the 2000s, from 2000 to 2010. I was that's 18 to 28 for me, roughly. And she goes back and talks a little about the late 90s too. But it's just a really good mix of commentary and nostalgia, but not necessarily in a positive way. And then her own stories, and I've really been digging it. It kind of talks a lot too about how that era has influenced the world today. I was expecting it to be a little lighter. It's not, but I'm not mad about it. Oh, okay. So I'm very into it.
You're okay that the book is heavier than you expected it to be? Shocker. I am shocked.
What are you reading, Sarah?
So I am the opposite. I am reading 8 things right now. I'm still reading the stupid Crescent City book because I keep having to return it. And so now I'm at the way where I'm just one chapter at a time while I'm on lunch at work because I'm going to finish it. But also Onyx Storm came out and I finished that in 2 days and ignored my husband and child to do it.
As you would. As we would.
As we would. I'm not even going to go into that. Great. Loved it. All vibes. Here for it. Come at me if you have thoughts and feelings on it. I'm listening to 2 different things right now. A Bad Day for Sunshine by Dorinda Jones, which is a fun detective. She's a cop series. And also The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell, who also did Cultish. I'm listening to that. I'm really enjoying that because I love putting my anxieties in a box, and just like each chapter is a different like psychological fallacy that we have, and so it's very interesting. It's also only 6 hours, which is the other reason I picked it up.
That's a great length for an audiobook.
Yeah.
Check mark.
Yes, especially for a nonfiction one, especially for like a more, not quite self-help. It's a little bit memoirish on top of that too. She definitely uses a lot of her personal experiences in that one. But she's also, I think, a millennial. I'm guessing on that based on the way she writes. I'm getting a head nod from my producer because we did have her as an avid author a couple years ago. So she also there was some middling reviews when I looked into it, but I was like, oh, it's because you guys don't like millennials. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. We are aware.
We know.
But I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying her writing. And then the one other thing I'm reading is called Keep Me by Sarah Kate. It is a romance. It's much different from the romances I normally read. It's a billionaire romance. It's definitely steamier than I would normally read. But past Sarah put it on hold, and it came in for me right after Onyx Storm, and I was like, okay, this is what I'm reading. I'm enjoying it so far. Very, very different. I will fill you in when I finish it if I like it at the end or not.
Okay, so full stop from the cover of that book.
Yeah.
I thought that I believe there's plaid on the cover.
There
right?
is, yes. Okay, it's a Scottish billionaire.
Okay, see, I was like, is this a weird cross between 50 Shades of Grey and historical romance?
No.
I mean, like, I love that. I'm sorry that I went so far back with that reference.
Yeah.
But, like, do you know what I mean? Like, at the cover, I was like, So that makes sense. So it is Scottish. Okay.
It is Scottish. He's a Scottish billionaire who's a recluse. The premise is that his family wants him to stop being a recluse and leave the house. Okay. And they're offering this woman $10 million. So there's also like a marriage of convenience plot thrown in there as well.
Interesting.
They're very mean to each other, but it's consensual meanness. So I'm just like, I'm so used to rom-com banter. I don't know what to do with the two of you.
I can't wait for your review.
I'll give you the full review when I'm done with it. But I'm all over the place right now. But that is what I'm reading. Very, very like mood reading right now.
I get that.
Yeah.
I got put down. That's normally me, but I'm honed in on my two right
now.
now.
We're like very opposite.
I know.
No, I'm just kind of like, what I want to read right this moment. So, yes.
Love it.
But a new little tidbit we're doing right now, not just what we're reading, but what we're excited to read next. So what's on your TBR, Jess?
I'm going to read the second book that Toni Morrison wrote, which is Sula, because I am reading all her books this year. That was just a author study I chose to do. And Sula is my favorite. I've read it before, so I'm excited to read it again. It's been a long time. I'm definitely going to pull out one of my college papers on it just to laugh. I just feel like it's going to be like...
Don't do that to yourself,
I think it's going to be hilarious.
I found one of mine the other day and it was bad.
Is it bad? Okay.
It was bad. I didn't have a thesis. I was so proud of this paper and there's no thesis.
I think I'm going to still do it. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know if I do.
So proud of it.
And then I am going to read a book I've had an arc of forever and just haven't got to. It's called Voice Like a Hyacinth by Mallory Pearson. It's basically about 4 art students who resort to the occult to basically unlock their creativity, curse their counterparts, be mean to a bad professor, etc., etc. Obviously, there are consequences. To me, it's giving Bonnie Mace's The Secret History, and I love both of those books, so I'm very excited about it. Plus, it got reviewed well by people I have similar tastes to, so that is what I'm going to read. Physical, I just snagged an audiobook copy of Water Moon on Hot Titles by Samantha Yambao. I think I wrote that down right. And so that's the next audiobook I'm going to read because that is high on my TBR. The physical book is so cute too. So we'll see if I end up passing it up for the physical. But that's on my TBR. What's on yours?
So I've gotten back to my roots into historical romance. So this is based on the fact I finished A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera, and it was fabulous. It'd been on my TBR forever, and I've been quite a historical romance slump. So because of that, the next on my TBR is Anna Marie and the Fox by Liana de la Rosa. So similar vein. And I'm just like, I'm hoping I'm 2 for 2 with historical romances. Because also, I saw a thread from Kate Bateman, which if you are a historical romance reader, she's very big in the historical romance world. And her contract is not getting picked up from traditional publishing because apparently historical romance is ebbing or romanticy's flowing.
And rom-com I think is rom-com and romanticy are the genre
Yes.
push right now.
And so she's very diplomatic about it, but I was like, no. So I'm trying to really read the historical romances in protest of this.
I love that.
But the other book I'm really excited for, I'm like, we'll see if it's TBR or not, depending on how far down I am on the list. But Deep End by Allie Hazelwood, because I love Allie Hazelwood. I do everything. I was like, cool.
Sure.
I'm gonna pick her up next. I love her so much. I don't. This one's about diving. I don't know. I don't know.
I love this like new trend in like. I mean, Allie Hazelwood's always done it, but like this like focusing on something. Like I read The Favorites as like an example, which is like I feel like this book is gonna blow up, but it's all about ice dancing, but it's like dramatic. It's not a romance per se, but romance, drama, toxic behaviors, etc. Loved it. It was great. It was, and I think that's kind of like the vibe, like focusing in on like swimming. And I know we've gotten hockey, don't get me wrong, but I just think there's more.
But the fact that the female main character in romance is not in the literary world in some way is so good. As someone who's in the literary world, it's like, I don't need to read about another librarian or publisher or editor or writer or anything like that.
Also, they usually get it wrong.
Yes.
Which I will probably talk about later.
We're definitely going to talk about that later. Because I just got done reading Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto, which I didn't love the book, but I did love it set in like an orchestra. So they're so they're professional musicians, which is also so like as someone who played music in high school and college, but not nearly at the level, it was like nice to like learn all about that. Anyway, so I like learning while people are falling in love.
It's really nice, actually.
So that's on my TBR.
I love it. We'll see it. I feel like we need to check back in now. I need to remember what I said I'm gonna read and see if I read it. Not that I probably won't. No. I might. Who knows? I'm very, we're mood readers.
Yeah.
So
too many options.
So, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, February is Library Lovers Month, and I wanted to make a quick distinction between National Library Week and Library Lovers Month. So, National Library Week is this like annual celebration that highlights the valuable role libraries, librarians, and library workers play in the communities. There's usually a theme. It's put on by ALA. You'll see oftentimes our socials will post like pictures of the librarians like on that day. And it is April 6th through the 12th this year. So that's when National Library Week is. National Library Lovers Month is February, and I feel like it's one of the, I'm gonna be honest, I feel like it is one of those things like National Hot Dog Day. Like someone just like decided it and that's what it is. But I do love leaning into it because it is it's such a good month to talk about what you love the most. And so it's all the same thing, but I think Library Lovers is more dedicated to the patrons. Yeah. And Library Week is more dedicated to the services we provide. And it is technically all about you guys. So
yeah. I love you through technically.
It is.
It's all about you guys.
So I wanted to like talk about that really quickly. And you might see stuff like on the internet, or we'll have a display up at Franklin for Library Lovers Month. It is also Black History Month, which is another big one that we definitely do have stuff going on, and books displays for. I don't want to undermine that as a February month either, but we're just going to talk about libraries. We're going to give you a few books that feature libraries or librarians, talk about how you can support your library, all that kind of stuff. So I think we'll start with some lesser known services that you might not know about that the library offers. I think my favorite one is book club sets, which you can check out 10 of the same books. Almost always with questions. I can't guarantee always. Sometimes they don't have them in there, whether it be it's a new book and it went out before we had the chance, or they don't exist and we don't trust AI to make them. All of the above. But anyways, it's 10 books you check out, and you check it out for 2 months at a time. And we have a pretty extensive collection.
Yeah, yes.
Because that is how our book club, the library book clubs, we choose those books too. That's how we order them. Not only, but mostly, that is how the sets get ordered.
Yes, mostly. And they are housed at Central and Franklin.
Yep. But you can put a hold and have it sent anywhere. Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Another thing I don't think a lot of people know about is that Libby obviously has audiobooks, and it obviously has books, but it also has a ton of magazines. And I'm not just talking like your People, your like, your basic magazines. It has like a lot of those like special interest publications, as I think that's the industry calls them, SIPs, but like, focusing in on one particular thing.
Like trains.
Yes. Or like even like I
had a patron who wanted trains so bad, and we could not get him the physical magazine for years. He just put a little comment in trains. Anyway.
And like, I feel like, those like recipe ones, like the Better Homes and Gardens, like where they just do all avocado recipes, or like, that's not what they do, but you know what I mean. I just think that's an underused resource. You can computer, tablet, it's a great option. As we all know that print magazines, it hurts me, but it is a dying industry. We've talked about how audiobooks are a dying industry, and physical audiobooks, and I think that magazines are also on their way out. Speaking of digital, we also have I don't think a lot of people know about this either.
No, this is a fairly new one.
Because it is new. It is an app. It's Comics Plus. So this is, it's like Libby, but for comic books. The best part about it, I think, is we do not have restrictions on who can use it.
Yes.
So you don't have to be a Des Moines resident to use it, which you do have to be to use our Libby, our ebooks and e-audiobooks. How many times can I say e? But Comics Plus has a ton of comics and kids. I mean, there's a lot of adult comics too. Lots for adults, lot for teens, but a great selection of kids graphic novels too. And if you have a child in your life who is at reading age, you probably know how much kids love graphic novels.
Oh, yes.
And they are like great for literacy. Comics Plus is just underutilized probably, and I would love to get the word out there more about it. So
yes.
I try to plug it when I can.
And I don't think, and you can correct me on this, Jess, that it's not like Libby either where there's holds.
No, but it's just you're just reading it. Like you're not checking it out.
Ouch.
You're just clicking on it and reading it.
Yep. Yes, you don't have to wait for anything on there like you would on Libby.
That's another great point, because we are so accustomed to waiting, which is fine.
Yeah.
We just are.
It's good for us.
It is good.
Builds character.
Community fridges. Yes. I think that's another really huge thing that I don't know everyone knows about. We do have community fridges and community pantries at Franklin, at Central, at South. I believe Forest has a pantry.
Yes.
For sure. So basically that is just like the motto of a community fridge is take what you need, leave what you can. So it's a donation based, we got food rescue. Basically you can come to the library and potentially take home food if you need it. And this is a time when a lot of people are facing food insecurity, and it's something that I'm pretty passionate about having in the library. And it's been just, I can't talk. It's like too much. Like thinking, like watching it at Franklin and like seeing people's response to it, and like it's just like, it's almost emotional, because it's just lovely seeing the community come together and basically feed each other.
Yeah.
Let me tell you though, some stuff goes in that fridge and it's gone in like 2 seconds. I don't know how it is at Central. I imagine it's the same.
Oh yes, we cannot keep our fridge stocked.
No.
At all. And that's we have some really nice community members that partner with us.
Yeah.
Supply Hive, Salvation Army, like all those guys. And we, as soon as food goes in, food goes out.
I love it. We have a regular patron who will occasionally source like online, ask for donations online, and go to Aldi and just buy like a huge haul.
Oh, that's
and, like,
amazing.
Bring it in, and it is just it's a service that warms my heart. So I wanted to mention that.
Yes.
What else we got?
I think the last big thing, the lesser known, Library of Things.
Yes.
And I will say some of the stuff is really popular. Carpet cleaner, can't keep it in.
People are obsessed with that carpet cleaner.
It's amazing.
And
I finally brought it home. I finally got it.
Is it good?
I finally got it. It's amazing.
It is a long wait list.
I have a dog and a toddler. It was amazing. You're like, it's so clean in here. I immediately returned it, put it right back on hold. I was like, I did it 4 months ago. It'll be just time to do it again.
Use it again. I love that.
But I love, it has like and we've talked about it on the podcast before, but I think it's worth reiterating that like both it has some like really unique stuff that you wouldn't think about, especially like cooking wise. And also we expanded for like baby stuff. So I know I'm on hold for the wagon because we're going to the zoo in May, and I already have that as a suspended hold. We're taking 2 toddlers, me and a friend, to the zoo.
Love that. So like the a collapsible type wagon.
A collapsible wagon. We can throw 2 toddlers in, that sort of thing. Outdoor games, which come once it finally gets nicer out again, are never going to be checked in. Telescope.
We also have Library Things Junior, which will be like for children's items, specifically of children's. That is mainly games and like quote unquote toys. I don't know a better way to describe that. Also, that it's available for that. So.
Yes. But the big thing is like if there's something you think, I think I would only use that one time, I don't want to buy it, check Library of Things. That's our whole goal, is that we would have it so you only have to use it once for free from us.
It's great. Have I checked anything out from Library Things? I have. Yard games. I was like, have I?
Yeah. I currently have the digital scanner at my desk. It's for work, but I haven't checked out. So scanning some slides. So that's a handful of the many resources we have here.
Underappreciated sometimes.
Yes.
Well, let's see. You guys, you want to talk about like some statistics maybe?
Yeah.
Like letting people, I feel like the numbers game is always, okay, to me, it is always really interesting to know like the amount of, like we get an email that tells us how much we circ every week. We know how it is, but I think it's really interesting to find out for the public how many books and what collections are the most popular. So if you had to guess the most popular, I feel like the most popular collection is going to be...
Are you asking me to guess? I pulled these stats.
I'm joking. It's children's books.
Yeah, I was like, Jess, I know the answer to this.
It's picture books.
I pulled the stats.
I was trying to be like, if they had to, our listeners had to guess.
It's like a Blue's Clues situation.
But it didn't work out very well. I didn't lead into it properly.
Yeah. Sorry, and also, you know me, I can't like leave a silent pause.
So picture books. That's our most circulated collection. Right after, I feel like DVDs. Huge. I think that's such a wild. I love that our DVDs are. Physical media is. I just love that they're still circulating.
And I think it's one of those things where when I first started here, I've been here 9 years now, and then with all the talk was like, what DVDs are dying. It's the end of the DVD. You know, rental stores were closing, which they still have. But I think because of that, because people lost other ways to rent movies. And maybe don't have streaming, don't want streaming, can't afford streaming, or sometimes it's just not on streaming.
Yeah, like an obscure older movie that we have kept for over time.
So I feel like if anything, we've seen kind of an uptick in DVDs checking out. I have regulars that check out, 10 at a time. I had a gentleman just recently check out 7. He's like, this will get me to the Super Bowl. So he's planning on watching DVDs all weekend. Watching the Super Bowl. And then returning them.
I love that.
That's his weekend. That's his weekend plans. But yes, so DVDs is still huge here.
Yeah. I will say something that surprised me we pulled numbers for the entire system and then branch by branch. We don't have to break it down too much, but something that surprised me is that nonfiction circulates more than fiction.
Yes.
I was not expecting that.
I was not expecting that
at
either.
all. I would expect fiction to be a higher circulating collection, but it's not.
It's not. Yeah, I found that odd, honestly.
Yeah, by about 2,000 items, roughly. Did I read the numbers?
No, about 20,000 items.
That's why I was like, nope, I'm going to repeat myself because it's very wrong. That's why I'm a librarian, not a mathematician. In my defense, there are no commas in these numbers.
That's also true. I pulled them straight from the software, and there are no commas.
I don't know, is there anything else interesting from the stats you want to bring up, Sarah?
I think the only big thing... just like the volume at which we circ stuff. So the strategic plan that we just finished that I was going to bring in, the report, as of last year, 399,000 digital things checked out, circulated, and 848 physical circulation. So like we're looking at millions of titles of items checked out year over year. The scope is huge. I mean, we were just talking about before this podcast, circ is up at Franklin, 12%. So I think we're seeing an uptick in people reading, which I love. We love to hear it.
Love to see it.
Love to see it. So I think that, like, I think sometimes people don't quite understand the scope of what and that's just like one facet of what we do day in and day out in circulation.
And I think it's so much behind the scenes too, because like the patrons don't see the rooms where books are checked in. I mean, so the smaller branches, it's more obvious, but the two bigger branches, Franklin and Central, it is, all that stuff kind of happens behind closed doors, the sorting of the delivery, all the checking in, the poll,
And we just have one delivery guy. So like kudos to Doug, who is moving all those books around all day, every day.
A lot of books.
A lot of books. So that's like kind of the big stat I think I wanted to like leave us with as far as our specific libraries go. But I think more importantly, beyond the numbers, since it's Library Lovers Month, is why we love libraries and when we fell in love with libraries. And so Jess, was there like a moment?
So I'm like a childhood library user. We definitely went all the time when I was little. Me and my mom went all the time. And we didn't go, I grew up in Ames. We didn't go to the physical library a ton. We went a decent amount, but where we did go all the time was the bookmobile. Ames had a bookmobile. And it would park in the parking lot of my elementary school, which was much closer to my house than the downtown library. And honestly, I don't know what the hours were for the library downtown in Ames. There's only one library, but I don't know what the hours were. Maybe they did close early. Maybe it was just easier for my mom to get to the bookmobile. But for some reason, we definitely spent more time at the bookmobile. And at that particular location and the driver of the bookmobile, there was a librarian, and her name was Lynn, and she would always like bring me books that she thought I would like, and like this was like, it wasn't, there weren't holds, I would guess she did that for multiple people. I wasn't like special, but I absolutely thought I was. But she would like bring me
as
books
you should feel
that she thought I would like, and she would like always talk to me about books, and she was like sitting behind the like a steering wheel behind her. It was just like so cool, and you felt like it was just a really unique experience, I think, having a bookmobile, and then realizing that like that could be something I could do. So it's funny because my love is not necessarily of the physical building, which so many people have such a strong connection to. And don't get me wrong, if you grew up in Ames, you know about that little picture window with all the cool weird library like scenes. Like, there's cool stuff in that building. But the bookmobile, I think the bookmobile did it for me. Which is, access is paramount to, loving your library.
Well, and I think that's so funny because in my experience, too, because I remember, I've told the story about, like, my journey to become a librarian was not... It was not something I wanted to do my whole life. Like, a lot of people, I think, like, grew up in their libraries wanting to be librarians. So I didn't go to my public library a lot. It wasn't a never thing, but it was an old supermarket that they converted into.
I love.
But that's not, for me, it was not like a touchstone. I played softball during the summer, so I feel like that's not something we did summer long. But for me, it was my school library. I look back and I was like, and shout out to Mrs. B and Mrs. Meese. But those two were just like a safe space. I was so introverted, and I would go there at any like off time, and they were so sarcastic and it's like that's the librarian that like I became, right? Was so I don't remember if I've told the story on the podcast when I graduated from college, undergrad. It was the same year my brother was graduating from high school, so I ran into them at his graduation party, and my mom was like, "Go tell them what you're going to go do," and I was like, "I'm going to library school," and they laughed in my face. Now that I've been a librarian for 9 years, I was like, I get that laugh.
Yeah.
I know. And I don't think at the time, because I didn't know what my future would be, but like if I could go back and like thank them for like giving me that safe space.
Yeah.
And also I think we did AR in school, so like your reading level, and of course because I was an active reader, my reading level was way higher than it should have been. So their patience, like making sure that like the books were both like interesting and appropriate is a weird word to use in this political climate, but like appropriate in the sense that like I would enjoy them. At my age.
I know what you mean.
And the patience was just so important. to who I have become. So that is where my love at libraries is actually.
Shout out to school librarians.
School librarians.
Like, I know we talk a lot. We're literally talking about public libraries today. That's all we're mostly talking about. But shout out to school librarians, because my school librarian was pretty amazing too. Shout out to Mrs. Christensen as well.
And Sister Colleen, because I went to Catholic school. But she was also great.
I love that.
Yeah.
If you also love libraries like Sarah and I, we just wanted to give you a few things that you can do to help us. The first one being very obvious: please use the library, use the resources we have, come in our buildings. Don't come in our buildings, and use our online resources. Do whatever you can to support your library. Attend library events. I just said stay home and use the library, but please also come and attend our programming. Our librarians work really hard to curate useful and interesting programming for patrons, and the more people that come, the more money that we can have to hopefully give you those services. So please come to our programs. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends about the awesome services here, things you maybe learned today. Encourage your friends to get a library card.
Yes. Talking about stats.
Yes. Please get even if you like barely use it, please get a library card. And tell your friends to get a library card.
And you will use it, I promise. Like, you will.
One other like kind of small thing is I've noticed I recently noticed one of our regular patrons joined our friends group. And so like every library does have a friends group, which supports the library. They raise funds. So like, you know, I think Northside has a very active friends group. Forest too. They will like have sales and like, you know, basically work to support the library as well. So you can join your friends group. That information I think is very branch specific. So go to your branch and ask them about it. And on like a broader level, there are ways that you can politically advocate for us. There's a website on all about how we show up for your library on the ALA website. They have a whole landing page. It's updated with current events. It helps you build relationships with your elected officials and advocate for library and library services. I'm actually not going to read the long link, but it will be in our show notes. But it is basically show up for our library.
Yeah.
So it is important. So that's worth at least checking out.
Yes. Yeah, take a look at that.
Take a look.
Mm-hmm. But back to... I mean, that was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed. But back to why everyone's listening, which is some book recommendations.
And
these are specifically set in or about libraries. And they're not about depictions of librarians because, no offense, authors, but you almost always get it wrong.
Almost. I don't know if I've read it right.
No. Meg Cabot, I'm looking at you. I'm calling you out specifically.
I'm calling out Emily Henry.
That wasn't as bad. You should really read this Meg Cabot book. It's really bad.
I mean, it just, you know. I think I do think that librarians are people don't always know exactly what we do necessarily. So and in pop culture, the depiction has been either a angry, quiet old lady or a seductive, sexy librarian. And I am neither. Sorry. I had to. Anyways, okay. So my first book is called The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. This book I've read it. I loved it. It's a wild ride. It is one of those books that you just have to trust the process. So if that's not for you, I totally get it. But it is like basically set in this twisted version of our world. The main character, Caroline, her life completely changes when she's young. Her subdivision and her whole family is destroyed by this man she now calls the father. And he takes in these 11 other children along with Caroline, puts them in this unusual library. It's the Library of Heaven and Hell. Like, it's just bonkers what happens. Eventually, Caroline has to try to overtake one of her siblings. It is one of those, like, books that is complicated, but it doesn't make your brain hurt complicated. I don't know a better way. It is kind of vibes, I guess. Yeah. But there is definitely a plot. It is, like, a revenge. It is just wild. It's not it's not always the easiest book to follow, but it is definitely worth it for the payoff. And it's his only book, which I think is really interesting.
I did not know that.
Super popular when it came out.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working at the bookstore, I would say everyone read it. It got passed around. People were like, this book is amazing. So if you're here for that type of book, I loved it. Library Mount Char.
My first book is one that I've definitely talked about before. The book that wouldn't burn by Mark Lawrence. I'm bringing it up again too because the third in that series. It is a trilogy. It's ending. The book that held her heart comes out April 8th. I'm very excited about it. I've read some ARC reviews for it, and apparently I'm going to cry, so I'm just getting excited for that. But it is a high fantasy book set in this like infinite library. Like no one knows the ends of this library. That's kind of infinite knowledge. You can find anything if you're willing to go searching for it. It's so infinite. I had to bring this up, and I haven't before, that there's like potty spots in the library. It's some high fantasy like world building like magic system where you can like go and then you don't have to use the bathroom anymore.
I love it.
Because you could spend days, weeks trapped in this library. But what I really like about it, without like spoiling anything, is it's a dual perspective point of view storyline about two different people both using the library at different time periods, and about the way we other people, and how that it inevitably comes to bite you in the end. But it's a really good book, especially now when you're talking about this idea of othering people. Yeah. So that's the other reason I really wanted to bring it up.
I am going to check that out. That is a series that you've read that I definitely is on my TBR.
Yes.
It looks like something I would really like.
It is very high fantasy, very world building. I did audiobook it because sometimes me and world building, I just honestly, I'm like, I don't care. I believe you. I don't care. You
Sounds great.
You don't
Thumbs
have to. You don't have to. I believe you. You don't have to like convince me. It's a fantasy novel. I believe you. Anyway, that's my first book.
My second book is long been on my TBR. I haven't read it. It's called The Parliament by Amy Pokwaka. I think I'm pronouncing her name correctly. This pull quote is part of the reason that I was like, yes, Library Journal called this book a Maurice Sendak fairy tale tucked into a nature attacks horror novel. Sometimes I'm jealous of people who can write those like really good one-liners about a book. Oh, it's a good one. But basically it is about a chemist who is trapped in a library with a class of teens. So she's like teaching this class by a ravenous flock of tiny owls. That like basically if you step outside the library, the owls will eviscerate you. Like that you're done. Like they will eat you and kill you and you're dead. But the main source of comfort in this whole situation is the main character's favorite childhood novel, which is called The Silent Queen. She reads out loud to them. So it's kind of like a book inside a book. It like serves as like a distraction. My question is, where is everyone else? But I feel like that is part of the kind of story's drive because she's making some type of allegory, but they eventually do figure it out. But I think it sounds fascinating. Not only the book inside the book concept, but getting trapped inside a library because tiny ravenous owls are outside. All the things I could be scared of. Who knew? That was also one of them.
Add that to my anxiety list.
Check mark.
Check. But that leads me really nicely into mine, which again, I talked about it last podcast. I'll probably talk about it next podcast. I will talk about this book forever and ever and ever. It is Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, which also is kind of a book within a book. The general synopsis is that the main character picks up a book, starts reading it, and realizes it's his own life path within the book, and then it leads him into this library. I think the biggest critique I've ever seen about this book specifically, it's also another infinite library because apparently that's just what I'm into, is that between each chapter, it's been a few years since I've read it, but there's vignettes that seem to not have anything to do with the book, and I feel like a lot of people gave up, and I was like, the vignettes matter, guys. Just keep going.
Keep going.
Keep going. I just think it's absolutely beautifully written. It's one of those ones that, like, if anyone's ever looking for a book, this is the first one I recommend. I don't care what you normally like. You will be reading Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. It has a found family. It has everything I love about a book. So, anyway.
I haven't read
Dear Lord.
I haven't read. I'm going to. I will.
She said, whatever.
I will.
Whatever.
I didn't love the Night Circus, so I've just
Me
been,
either. No,
okay,
no, I didn't either.
Okay.
I wasn't gonna say that because everyone loves the Night Circus.
Everyone loves that book. Okay.
Yeah,
no.
All
right, this is working for me.
No.
For me. Okay.
And it also didn't do it for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Put it up higher on the TBR.
Yes.
The last book I'm going to talk about is The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd.
This almost made my list.
This is just like kind of just like this imaginative magical realism thriller. Some of the it is about basically this young woman who discovers this strange map in her deceased father's belongings. This map clearly holds a secret. Her father worked in the map department at the New York Public Library. That's a library. Forgot about that part. That's a library. And that's where she finds him dead and also finds this map. And they were estranged before this. So there's like that level of like her and her father weren't speaking. So she has another level of mystery to just figure out what this map means, what this means for her family, what this means for her dad. I believe the answer is low-key magical. So it is mysterious. It's complex. It's dangerous. I think it sounds like a great book. So it's The Cartographers.
Yeah. And my last one is a little bit different than my other two. Is Upright Women Wanted by Sarah Gailey. This is set in like a near future where America has deteriorated back into like the Old West.
Okay.
And this is about women, specifically queer women, trying to smuggle information across the West, books, and so it's its little own secret library as they try to get information and books around checkpoints and through the violence that is the now New West compared to the Old West. I like the synopsis of it where it says, "An Upright Women Wanted, author Sarah Gailey reinvents the pulp Western with an explicitly anti-fascist near-future story of queer identity." It's also a very slim novel. I think it's
short.
Yeah, it's 176 pages. So it's a nice little book as well. Highly recommend. So that is the last one on my list.
Interesting. I love it. Check out these books about libraries or librarians. Mostly about libraries.
Mostly about
libraries.
Yeah.
Because as we said, books about librarians. All right, so now it is time for everyone's favorite.
Wait, we got one more thing.
Oh, gosh.
We got one more thing.
Oh, gosh. I'm sorry, what is it?
We have to talk about what we're doing next month.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I could tell, like, her face was still like, she's like, I don't know what we're doing.
What are we doing? What did I miss? Okay, yeah. This is great.
So next month, we're doing our podcast a little bit differently. We're going to do a book discussion podcast. So next month, or in the next 3 weeks, Jess and I are going to be reading Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray. And this is a historical fiction basically about how the Harlem Renaissance began. And it's about this woman who becomes the editor of The Crisis. So we'll be reading it and then we'll be discussing it. If you guys want to read it so you can follow along as we talk about it, I highly recommend. So yes, Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray.
Stay tuned as Sarah and Jess read the same book.
I know.
I'm kind of excited about it.
Okay.
It is a middle ground book for us.
Yes,
so
for us.
And it's on my TBR too. So
Yeah, it has a beautiful cover. Not that it has everything to do with everything. Yeah. It's a beautiful cover.
Okay, now it is time for the book bulletin.
It's time for the book bulletin.
Sarah, you want to start us off with, there's a lot. We got a lot.
Which one are we doing first?
I don't know.
Let's just start with a quick one.
Okay.
Children of Blood and Bone. Let me get my notes on that one. It is coming out as a movie. And they, it's coming out January 2027. So we're still a couple years out from the movie. But they have like dropped the cast, and or at least a good chunk of the cast, and it's amazing. Cynthia Erivo is in it. Lashana Lynch is in it. Viola Davis, Queen Viola Davis is in it.
I love it.
Chiwetel Ejiofor, Regina King. I mean, the cast is stacked.
Yeah, that's superstar.
Superstar cast. So I truly, and it's the screenplay is also being written by the author Tomi Adeyemi. So I love that as well.
I hope that this I just hope that this can even continue to make this book more popular.
Yes.
Not a movie adaptation.
So that's the extent of that book bulletin. But like, if you read the book and you didn't know that there's going to be a movie, now you know. And then on top of that, it's just this insane cast connected to it as well.
Something that I was really excited about that I wanted to talk about for the book bulletin is that bookshop.org is now selling ebooks. So you can support your local bookstores by buying ebooks. It's kind of like the Libro FM,
Yes.
which is like the audiobook version of supporting your local bookstore. So you just choose the bookstore you want to support, and you can now buy ebooks from another place besides Amazon.
Yeah.
And iBooks but mostly besides Amazon. So that's really exciting. Should we talk about all the exciting stuff first?
Do you want to end heavy, though, is the only thing? Should we do heavy now, like right in the middle?
Yeah, I'm going to do it in the middle.
Do it in the middle. Do it right now.
So this is not surprising, but the education department said it would no longer investigate schools that remove books from their libraries. I believe there were 11 pending cases right now that have been dropped. Again, this is not surprising, but it is concerning that is just no longer important to the current Department of Education.
Yes. So something to keep an eye on.
For sure.
Because I think we're going to see more changes.
I think we are.
As this continues to move forward. So that is, not fun stuff. See, I'm going to be in the middle.
In the middle. Now we got other fun stuff.
Yeah. Did you want to talk about book blurbs?
Yes, Simon & Schuster, like this morning, I just read the article this morning, so they are no longer requiring book blurbs, which I just think that's wild.
I know. I was like, I don't feel like negative or positive,
No.
just like a little bit in shock.
I think it'd be weird to pick up a book without a blurb on it.
Yeah.
Like what do they do with that space? I do feel like books are being very decorative right now.
Yes.
Like they're very fancy. So like maybe there'll be some more artwork, but I think mostly it just they cited it was a waste of time, which I get, and that like it just didn't it's not like a meritocracy. Like it's like you talk about your best friend's book well, or like you talk about authors you like. It's not quote unquote fair.
And like you're not putting like a negative blurb on there. Like
no, you're saying something nice, like unputdownable. But yeah, I just think that's really interesting. I can't wait. I don't think they're like you can't like it's not not gonna happen at all.
I think
it's not a requirement,
and I don't think Simon & Schuster are gonna help like push for it anymore.
Which I think is I just think that's so interesting. So
and I think like anecdotally, at least they were saying they weren't seeing any sort of like uptick in sales.
Yes,
like having a blurb on it versus not having a blurb on
it.
No.
Just something that I'm just gonna watch. Just something to watch out for.
I'll be interested to see authors who are not maybe as big, because I feel like you look at like Patterson or like Rebecca Yarros or like these like people who are selling millions of books don't need the blurbs.
No.
What is that going to make a difference for like new authors? I don't know.
Interesting.
Anyway, I'm going to talk about AJ Brown, and then we can get into like the romance of it all and end with that, with it being February. I think it's so cute. AJ Brown, who for all you non-sports ball people is the wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Thank you.
Was caught reading the book Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy while sitting on the sidelines, I'm assuming while the defense was playing. No, when he's supposed to be out there. Reading. For the most part, it's gotten like really good feedback. There's a couple of people who are like, how dare you read while you're at work? And as a librarian who does not get to read while she's at work, I was like, good for you, AJ Brown, because I don't get to do that. But reading one of the article, he was saying that he's a big reader. He reads about 2 books a month, mostly nonfiction, and he wasn't like sitting and like reading. He likes to use it as a way to focus. He'll bring books he's already read and kind of like focus in on something.
That is.
So I thought it was really cute.
Yeah, I love representation matters.
Yes,
for reading books.
I absolutely love that. I think the leading wide receiver. Yes, I'm looking at my producer who does do sports ball stuff. Yeah. So he's not. He's someone who's like out there every play on offense sort of thing.
Adorable.
People know who he is if they watch NFL, which I obviously do not.
But a lot of people do. And I think that's really awesome to have someone reading a book on the sidelines.
Yes. So. All right. And then to end it all, because it's February, let's talk some all things romance.
All things romance.
I have a couple things. First of all, obviously, Onyx Storm dropped at the end of January.
Boom.
And people like news reporters don't know what to do with this series. I think they're just mad because it's popular. But like the Telegraph, which is a UK news source, called it "Fairy porn fans queue for midnight release of Onyx Storm, the next Harry Potter," which I know it's not, but also like other than like maybe like volume sold.
Everything about that headline makes me go, ugh.
Yeah. It's not about fairies.
Nope.
It's not about wizards.
Nope.
And it also, I think, like devalues like people's enjoyment of things.
100%.
Like let people enjoy the things they enjoy.
Yeah, like it's like the quote, "fairy porn" is in quote. You know,
Yeah,
like,
it's in quotes.
It's annoying.
Not quite as bad, but still not great. New York Magazine also wrote that the rise of Rebecca Yarros, Mother of Dragon Smut, which I know is supposed to be a play on Mother of Dragons from Game of Thrones, but it's also so wrong. Like the smut is not about dragons. It's also I'm gonna pull specifically. So Lady Whistlethreads, who is someone on Threads who kind of curates book drama. Honestly, I love it. I get the weekly email from her.
I'm signing up. Didn't know.
Yes. But I think she said it best, that she makes a joke about like there is no actual dragon smut. Like there's no dragons doing stuff. Like that's not what we're reading. But I think this is important. She said, jokes aside, I find it very weird that everyone is so obsessed with the spice that they don't notice the themes of the dangers of erasing history, how power can corrupt, and the validity of disability accommodations. Also, again, there's like, they keep talking. I was like, if I need to talk about chronic illness one more time, I'm going to scream every time this book comes out. But anyway, so I think, again, I just wanted to point out that like how poorly people are understanding these novels because of the couple of good, like, because it's clickbait. Because it's easy clickbait.
Because it's popular.
Yeah. And so you're mocking people for enjoying what they enjoy and also like not getting it. And that's not just true. This is just like one version of that because it just dropped.
Yeah.
Like just from a media literacy perspective, I need you to be aware of this every time something popular gets talked about.
Shout out to media literacy.
Media literacy. Okay.
What do we have?
Last one.
We have one more.
I have one more. I said these were going to be fun, and it's just me getting mad at the media, which is fun for me.
Yeah, same.
Fun for me. Goodreads just dropped their 100 most popular romances of the past 3 years. And it's so bad.
It's bad.
And I say this as someone who's probably read half of them. So I'm not saying the books are bad. I'm saying this is not a curated list. This is all it is they went and saw how many people had these books on their shelves, which is what the like database calls the stuff, and then they just put them in order based on the highest amount of places they were shelved, quote unquote shelved. So there's very little diversity on it at all. Also, just on top of like not even stepping away from that, which is a huge issue, that like I as a librarian would never curate something that would have like 4 books by the same author. There's no reason for it, because once you see one, you can decide, I love that author. As someone like Abby Jimenez is on there 3 times. I love Abby Jimenez. She does not need to be on there 3 times. Elsie Silver is on there 3 times. And so again, back to the media literacy. You got it. Not that you can't pull from this and it's great.
There's lots of good books on there.
But that's why I'm here. Let me curate a list for you.
It is like a very strong distinction between, like, this isn't AI curated, but we talked about this last time, a distinction between like a curated list and is like going to give you diversity. It's going to give you different voices. It's just not this, and maybe popular things. I'm not saying like this is popular, but there are popular books written by not white people. You know, like it's out there, and it's just there's a difference between just info dumping.
That's
info dumping, and then asking like a book chat librarian, or just in general seeking out books that maybe are more for yourself, more diverse. So
yes, it also like didn't get like the comment section does not well review this. So, like, what is this list? Because it's just info dumping is all it is.
Which, thanks, Goodreads.
Thanks, Goodreads. Anyway.
I wish I could quit you.
Yeah.
Maybe someday.
I said we were going to end on light. So I'm trying to think of something light and airy to end on. But, that wouldn't really be us.
Love your library. Visit your library. We'd love to see your smiling faces inside our doors.
And we will see you next month.